Hey everyone, it's Richard again from Unboxing NoCode. Today I'm going to be doing part two of our Unboxing Airtable kind of video series. For the second one, I'm going to be going over automations. For this particular video, I have actually created an Airtable base that I think could be relevant. So the backstory on this is yesterday after recording the video for the first unboxing of Airtable, a friend reached out asking for recommendations for Denver and Boulder. Since my wife and I have been kind of remote and traveling, digital nomads, if you will, for the past few years, we've been to a lot of different cities and we spent a good amount of time in each place. So it's very common that people ask us for recommendations wherever they go. Typically, when I send recommendations, I just send an email with a list of bullet points and links to Google Maps pins. And that's usually how I do it. And I just keep re-forwarding that email, maybe adjust it if I want, and then send it out. What I've been wanting to do for a long time is actually turn that into some sort of more structured format. So like an Airtable database that I could share out. Seemed like a really good idea. So in any case, I started working on this earlier today. I put this together and I actually stumbled upon automations earlier and kind of saw some pretty cool use cases for it. So in any case, this is not quite an unboxing in the traditional sense as my other videos where it's literally my first time opening up the product, but I will go ahead and go through it with you on this. And I actually think that it'll make a lot of sense given that I have a real project that I've thought about, I've created myself. So let's go ahead and jump into it. This is a brand new copy of that project, so then I can see all of the new product walkthrough. So automations. With automations, you can trigger notifications, automate redundant tasks, and integrate with third parties to orchestrate work. Cool. Let's continue. You're ready to get started creating. All right. Okay, so similar as to apps, automations, actually, that's apps. I'm trying to do automations. Okay, yeah, similar to apps, automations takes the same kind of right side column. So let's go ahead and click on create an automation, automation one. So one thing that I was trying to do, I'll give you the use case real quick. One thing that I was trying to do is, as you can see, let me just close this automation first. As you can see here, I've got a number of different places. I've got categories, notes, URL, and the city. That's actually in another table. So I've got let's move my head over to the right. Let's close this out. I've got cities over here on the left-hand side, and then states if they exist, and then countries, and then these are the linked recommendations as well. I was playing with images, but I haven't really figured that out. I don't need this column anymore. So let me go back to recommendations. And what I want to do is in my shareable view, when I share it with somebody else, I want basically for people to be able to filter it by city. And what I'm running into right now is that in order to filter, they literally have to type in the city. So I would have to type in Chiang Mai, for example, and then it would show up. But as a user experience, that's not really nice because as a user, I don't really know what cities are available. And so what I want to really do is turn this into a single select where I can click a drop down and select the cities like of the different options that are available. And so I was thinking of ways to implement this. One way that I ended up thinking about was creating a new column and call it city let's call it city dropdown. And they have this single select kind of option. And then from here, we'll hit save. And for example, I'll just grab Denver and then drop it over here. Or maybe I could just grab them all and then drop them over here as well. And so this has to basically be done manually. Since I'm linking the city here to that cities table, it pulls this, and then this is a linked record. I forget what this is called. It's a lookup field, so this grabs the name of the city. So this is in text format, and this is like an object over here. And then what I really wanted to do was have that dropdown available. So let us see if we can view that dropdown over here. City, let's do a refresh. Okay, add filter, city dropdown. And this is what I really want to show to my end users, where they can just select which city they want to look at, you know, like that. And it'll show all the Boulder results here. Okay, so as I was thinking about that, that's cool and all, but what I didn't want to do is basically if I wanted to add a new row, let's call it Richard's Castle, and we do eating out because that's what everything is on here. Notes, best burgers, town, google.com, link to cities. Let's say this is in Taipei. So you can see that that's automatically pulled in because it's linked to the city. And basically what this is doing is just going to the city's table, grabbing the name associated with this object, and then dropping it in here. And then for tags, I don't need to fill out. And then you have this new button component that Airtable added not too long ago, which can open this up as well. So it's kind of an action in the cell. And then you can see here, this is empty. So what I would have to do manually is go and click, what did I say, Taipei? Taipei, okay. So what I want to do, rather than having to set that manually every single time, what I would love to have is once I input this Taipei field here and link it to that city, then this city dropdown gets automatically populated. All right, I think that's a perfect use case for automations. So let's go see if we can actually do that. Okay, so automation one, add and configure a trigger and action to complete this automation. So this terminology automatically reminds me of the way Zapier has their triggers and actions set up as well. So it really seems like Airtable is kind of, if Airtable used to just be the database, and then you would have to use Zapier to connect data in and out of it. It really seems like Airtable is trying to kind of expand the scope of what they can offer, and they now offer that automation step of like automating things inside the app, and also I guess through apps bringing data in and out. But let's just talk about automations inside the app at the moment. Let's click on choose a trigger. Oh, interesting. So they've got these other triggers built in as well. Let's just say when a record updated. We'll select the table. So we'll go to the recommendations, select a view. We'll just use our grid view, which is basically everything. And then we'll select fields. So updates to the selected fields will fire the trigger. When watching all fields, fields created in the future will also be watched. Okay, so what I really want to watch is link to cities. Once that, I believe, yep, once that is filled in, I want this to run. Test this step to confirm its configuration. Perfect. Click on that. Input, table recommendations, cities. Okay, cool. And then it pulls in a sample record. Suppose that might be the first one, 10 Barrel Brewing Company, record ID, field values. Cool. And you can kind of just keep nesting, or the fields keep nesting, and you can just walk down them like this. That's actually a really neat way of doing it. It keeps nesting. And I'm curious how deeply it can nest. So it seems to go 1, 2, 3, 4. It can't be infinite. Anyway, I'm curious what that is. Okay, so I hit done on that, and now we are going to add an action. Okay, this feels very much like Zapier. Let's update. I want to update the same record that it was triggered off of and populate that city drop-down field. Okay, so let us do select a table, recommendations, choose record ID. Gonna grab the record ID from here. So I can hit insert. I'm also curious, what does continue do? Oh, interesting. So if you hit continue, you can actually keep going down a level further, which shows the length of that string, I imagine, probably just the number of characters. Let me just do this again. Let's grab the record ID. So I'm going to update this record, and then I want to update the city dropdown field. Click here. What am I going to fill it in with? I am going to fill it in with link to cities, name. Cool. So that continue step I do find it to be a little bit confusing because I'm thinking, okay, it ends at Denver, but it's actually allowing me to continue to go to the length of the string, which I just find a little bit confusing because I feel like that's where the ending is, and then like getting the length of the string would be a different thing. Perhaps it's not even the length of the string. I'm not even sure about that. So let's run the test and see what happens. Test ran successfully. Let's click on this drop down because I think it'll show me what it's doing. Okay, 10 Barrel Brewing Company, field values, city drop down, Denver. All right, so we have the trigger set, we have the action set. I can add more actions if I want. Oh, funny. Okay, so I can add an action before using that button there, an action after using this one here. How would I, a trigger just makes sense, it's just one trigger. So let's turn this on and let's just test that. Let's move my head up here and let's go ahead and delete. Okay, let's go back. So this is empty. Richard's Castle, city dropdown is empty. And let us update that to, let's say we are in Boulder now. Let's see what happens. Hey, there we go. All right, so let's hit runs. You have 1 year of run history, okay. Ran successfully. When a record is updated, found one record, update the record. Cool. All right, let's do another one. Richard's sandwiches. Is that how you spell sandwiches? I think so. Best sandwiches. Google.com. Let's say we are in, where are we today? Let's go to Bali. We're in Bali. Let's see if it updates. Hey, there we go. Okay. Just to make sure, click on this automation, see the past runs. Failed to run. Input, failed to construct the field for values. Okay, so this says found one record, field values, go to Google Maps, record URL. This is all that was in there. What's this record ID here? I see. 2T. That's a little bit difficult. I can't really see. Okay. troubleshooting is not ideal right now. My guess is that this row was created without any data at first or something to that effect, because these happen basically at the same time, and it doesn't seem like anything was in this. So, I mean, let's look at the one that ran successfully. Record ID, field values, and it has these fields. So now I'm wondering if I'm using the right trigger, but I mean, in any case, it did work. So I'm just curious why we had that one failed run. That doesn't really make sense to me, and it's a little bit hard to debug it at the moment because I can't click on the record ID. But in any case, that's how automations run. It's now, okay, after trying out automations, what I really wish I had done is started with automations first, because I think it's a much easier feature to understand coming from, if you think about Airtable as a context. Okay, I have my database, and there are a number of things that I'm doing manually, or maybe it's pulling in through a form or something. But things like this, I even have other Airtables where I'm literally, based on certain changes in the Airtable database, I'm using Zapier to come in and update the Airtable itself. So I think that starting people off and introducing them with automations first is probably a pretty easy step from regular Airtable with no bells and whistles. And then from there, going to apps, because once you get into apps, that's when it kind of like the functionality kind of explodes. Before, when I thought about Airtable's apps, or what do they call them before? Blocks before, it felt more like, oh, these are like visualization features on top of your data. But based on my first unboxing of it, it really seems like apps have a lot of power. And even as I was looking at this today, I saw some really interesting, for example, some really interesting apps like this, where you can connect with Google Cloud Vision, extract labels, logos, and text, and images. And I imagine there's probably Translate as well. Cool. So, you can start doing really interesting things like, okay, if I upload this PDF, then extract all of the text from it in some sort of machine readable format, and then convert that text into Spanish, let's say, and then return it or send it back to Slack or something like that. So you start to see there's a lot of possibilities here between automations and apps. And it wasn't really apparent to me with the initial blog post, but after starting to play with it, I'm starting to see a lot of the capabilities. In any case, I'll probably build maybe I'll build that project as like a example project down the road. This is the second video, as I said, in a 3-video part series. So the third part, which I'll record later on, or maybe after this, is showing how, or testing out how Airtable sync works. So it seems like, I'm not sure if it's between 2 bases or just between 2 tables, but you can keep data in sync across projects. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. Anyway, hope you liked the video, and I'll catch you next time.